My cousin got the brand new sports car at 16, while I was biking through puddles in the rain, my backpack soaked and my shoes squelching with every pedal. I remember staring at the gleaming paint, the leather seats, the way my family fawned over him as if he were some untouchable prince, and feeling the sharp sting of being invisible. Birthdays, school awards, even simple compliments always seemed to gravitate toward him, leaving me with crumbs of recognition that barely scratched my self-esteem. I wanted to cheer for him, I really did. But inside, I felt this simmering mix of jealousy and disbelief. Why did he always get everything, and I was left chasing shadows? Every family gathering, every casual comment from relatives reminded me that I was the second choice, the overlooked one, and I carried that quiet resentment like a weight in my chest, heavy and constant, shaping the way I saw myself and the world around me. From a young age, it was impossible to ignore the way my parents and relatives lavished attention on him. Every achievement of his, no matter how small, was met with over-the-top praise. "He's just so talented," my aunt would gush, eyes sparkling as if he were flawless. "Why can't you be more like him?" My mom muttered one evening, frustration laced with disappointment, and I could feel my stomach knot with shame. I tried to laugh it off, but inside, the words burrowed deep, reinforcing that no matter what I did, it would never be enough. Every report card, every drawing, every little success I had was met with polite acknowledgement at best, a shrug, or a quick change of subject, while his every accomplishment was celebrated as monumental. I remember clenching my fists under the dinner table, forcing smiles while my heart twisted with envy. That constant comparison wasn't just unfair, it made me question my own worth, leaving me anxious, frustrated, and quietly determined to prove myself someday, even if no one believed I could. It wasn't just at home that I felt invisible. The slights followed me everywhere. At school, teachers praised him for effortless projects while my hard work barely earned a nod. At family gatherings, he was handed awards, recognition, and even small privileges that made me feel like an afterthought. The moment that cut deepest was when he received a full scholarship to a prestigious summer program I had desperately wanted. I remember sitting in the living room, clutching the rejection letter, while everyone cheered for him, as if my dreams were irrelevant. Flashbacks to earlier moments flooded me. My birthday gift forgotten. My solo piano recital praised only in passing. The countless times my ideas were dismissed in favor of his. Each small sting compounded, forming a persistent hum of inadequacy in my mind. I couldn't understand why he was always first, always celebrated, while I struggled to get a fraction of recognition. That contrast, stark and unyielding, planted a seed of quiet resentment, a sense that fairness was never meant for me, and that my life would always be measured against his perfection. I carried a storm inside me, silent and relentless, every time I saw him celebrated while I went unnoticed. I wanted to be proud, to genuinely smile at his victories, but the envy gnawed at me, sharp and persistent. My friends whispered about his latest trips, the fancy gadgets he showed off, the parties he attended, and I felt the sting of exclusion like a constant buzzing ache. Social media only made it worse. Pictures of him with expensive cars, at elite events, or flaunting awards I had worked tirelessly for. I wondered why life seemed so unfair, why my efforts felt invisible while his every move was magnified and admired. At night, alone in my room, I replayed moments when I was overlooked, questioning my worth. Was I just destined to be second best? The longing to be seen, to be validated, consumed me, and yet, amidst the frustration, a quiet determination began to form. I would find a way to claim my place, even if the world, and my family, didn't seem ready to acknowledge it. It was during one of our endless family dinners that I started noticing cracks in his perfect facade. While everyone fawned over his accomplishments, I saw the arrogance in his smirk, the way he brushed off responsibilities, assuming someone else would clean up his messes. He was careless, depending entirely on our family's wealth and connections, never learning the discipline that I had been forced to cultivate through years of struggle. The realization hit me slowly. He wasn't invincible, just protected. That thought sparked something inside me, a subtle, quiet empowerment. If I could study his patterns, anticipate his missteps, and quietly strengthen my own skills and resources, maybe the playing field could tilt. I began jotting notes, making mental plans, imagining the scenarios where his arrogance could be his downfall. The idea didn't feel like revenge yet. It felt like reclaiming control over a life that had always seemed preordained. For the first time, I didn't just feel frustrated or overlooked. I felt capable, aware, and ready to act when the moment came. I started stacking small victories, each one a quiet rebellion against the life that always favored him. I earned a scholarship to a local program, landed a part-time job that challenged me in ways my cousin would never understand, and poured myself into a creative project that slowly began gaining recognition. It wasn't flashy, not compared to his grand gestures or luxury indulgences, but each step felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. The contrast was stark. At the next family gathering, he smirked when I mentioned my achievements. "That's cute," he laughed, brushing it off as if it were insignificant. But inside I was glowing. I didn't need anyone else's validation to feel the satisfaction of hard work paying off. His mockery, meant to diminish me, only highlighted the difference between our paths. His handouts versus my earned successes. I quietly savored each accomplishment, knowing that these first wins were the foundation of a power reversal he would never see coming. As I gained confidence from my small wins, I started taking bigger, calculated risks. I invested my savings in a venture that seemed promising, even though everyone else, including my family, doubted me. I reached out to people in the family business, building connections quietly, learning the ropes, and proving my competence in ways my cousin had never bothered to. Every step felt like a chess move, positioning myself for a game he thought he was winning by default. The thrill of progress was intoxicating. I could feel the tide slowly shifting beneath me, and yet, I stayed invisible, keeping my plans close to my chest. At a family dinner, I casually mentioned a new opportunity I had secured, watching his eyes narrow in barely concealed annoyance. He didn't suspect that my quiet persistence and strategic thinking were about to pay off. They didn't see this coming, and when the moment arrived, it would be far bigger than anyone could imagine. It happened at a summer barbecue, the kind of gathering where every cousin's achievement was broadcast like a trophy. He leaned over to a group of relatives and whispered loud enough for me to hear, "Honestly, I don't know why anyone bothers including you. You never do anything impressive." Laughter followed from a few cousins, and I felt that familiar twist of humiliation knot in my stomach. For a moment, my instinct was to snap, to shout, to defend myself, but I didn't. Instead, I smiled faintly, nodded politely, and let the comment roll off. Inside, though, a fire ignited. I cataloged his arrogance, his carelessness, the moments he had taken for granted, and stored them away like ammunition for a future I was quietly orchestrating. The tension hung between us like a taut wire. Everyone assumed he had the upper hand, that I was the same overlooked cousin I had always been. But behind that calm exterior, I was planning my next move. And when the time came, the reversal would be as satisfying as it was inevitable. The moment arrived quietly, almost imperceptibly, but it hit with a force no one expected. I had just finalized a promotion at work, one that came with responsibilities my cousin could only dream of handling competently. That evening, at another family gathering, I arrived carrying news like a hidden weapon. My uncle, mid-bite of dessert, blinked at me. "Wait, how did this happen?" he asked, astonishment written across his face. My cousin froze, his confident smirk faltering for the first time in years. I explained my new position, the project I had led to success, and the recognition I had earned through dedication and strategy. While he had always relied on handouts and connections, I had built my victories from the ground up, silently and deliberately. The room shifted, murmurs of disbelief spreading as the contrast between us became undeniable. I didn't gloat. I simply smiled, savoring the quiet triumph. For the first time, the balance of power had subtly tipped, and the satisfaction of this small but significant reversal was sweeter than any flashy show of wealth or attention. It happened at the annual family fundraiser, a night my cousin had been boasting about for weeks. He pranced through the event, flaunting connections and expensive gifts, certain everyone was watching him. But his arrogance blinded him to details. He mismanaged a key donation, overlooked a contractual obligation, and inadvertently humiliated himself in front of the very people whose approval he craved. I watched quietly from the sidelines, heart racing, realizing the opening in front of me. While everyone else whispered and speculated about his mistake, I approached the organizers with a calm, competent explanation of the issue and proposed a solution. Within minutes, the room's attention subtly shifted, and I could feel their respect tilting toward me. My cousin's confident grin faltered, panic flickering behind his eyes. I seized the moment, stepping into the spotlight he had left exposed. I couldn't believe my luck. The stars had aligned, and suddenly, the tables were not just turning, they were about to flip completely. The following weekend, the family gathered for the annual celebration, unaware that everything was about to unravel. As my cousin launched into another self-congratulatory story, I calmly interjected, presenting the results of the fundraiser and my role in salvaging the situation. "Actually," I said, holding back the smirk I felt creeping across my face, "without my intervention, the main donors were about to pull out." A hush fell over the room. My aunt's jaw dropped, my uncle's fork froze midair, and my cousin's face went pale. "Wait, you handled this?" someone whispered, disbelief rippling through the crowd. He opened his mouth, tried to claim credit, but it was too late. Everyone had already seen the truth. Recognition, respect, and even subtle applause washed over me as I felt years of invisibility dissolve. I looked around, catching glimpses of admiration and shock, savoring the weight of justice finally tipping in my favor. In that moment, all the years of being overlooked, belittled, and dismissed crystallized into a single, sweet triumph. After the initial shock and whispers faded, I found a quiet corner to breathe and let it all sink in. The adrenaline of victory still pulsed in my veins, but beneath it was something deeper, a calm, steady satisfaction that I had earned every ounce of respect on my own terms. I thought back to the years of humiliation, of birthdays forgotten, accolades overlooked, and casual dismissals that had once made me feel small and insignificant. Each memory now felt like a stepping stone, a lesson in patience and resilience. I realized that my self-worth had never truly depended on their approval. It had been forged in my perseverance, my quiet strategy, and my refusal to accept the unfairness as permanent. Justice had been served, not through grand spectacle alone, but through calculated persistence and belief in my own capabilities. The contrast between who I had been, timid, envious, frustrated, and who I had become, confident, capable, acknowledged, was overwhelming. For the first time, I felt fully seen, fully empowered, and ready to carry that strength into every challenge that lay ahead. Even as I savored my victory, I couldn't help but notice the cracks still running through our family. My cousin slumped in a corner, humbled but not broken, and I felt a flicker of empathy. He hadn't asked for privilege. He had only exploited it. I didn't gloat or rub his mistakes in his face. I let the truth speak for itself. The room was quieter now, respectful but awkward, a reminder that relationships didn't reset overnight. Life remained imperfect, with old dynamics lingering beneath the surface, but the balance had shifted, and my position had been earned. As I reflected on the journey, the envy, the struggle, and finally the triumph, I realized that justice wasn't just about one dramatic win. It was about patience, self-respect, and growth. I could leave the past behind while carrying the lessons forward. Stronger, wiser, and quietly satisfied. Standing there, feeling the quiet respect of family members who had once dismissed me, I let myself smile, a small, knowing curve of satisfaction. Every slight, every overlooked achievement, every whispered comparison had led me here, and I finally understood the power of persistence and patience. They had always assumed I was weak, that I would quietly accept my place in the shadows, invisible and unremarkable. But they never realized who I truly was, the depth of my determination, the lengths I would go to claim what was rightfully mine. I had transformed frustration into strategy, envy into action, and humiliation into triumph. And as I looked around, quietly empowered, I knew this victory was more than recognition. It was validation of my worth, my resilience, and my ability to rise above the unfairness of life. They always thought I was weak. They never realized who I truly was.